my dear Astro family. Today we will be looking at the upcoming full moon in the sign of Virgo. So exciting full moon because it's going to be happening exactly on the same day when actually Saturn is changing sign too. So I feel like this full moon is highlighting the sign change of Saturn too. But before we do that, I would like to make an announcement. As as I could see, you guys always enjoy talking about asteroids, and I have been introducing more and more asteroids on my channel throughout the full moon and the new moon videos. So I've decided to put together a course about the 30 most important asteroids in your birth chart, how to use them. I've been researching them for a while. So I've collected all data, what you need. I've looked at plenty of charts. So if you are interested in this good 10-week program, then check that out on my website. The link will be in the description box below. And there are still spots left to book your retreat as well if you want to learn more about astrology. So check that out as well. Now let's get started with this full moon in the sign of Virgo. So it's going to be on 7th of March. It's going to happen at 12:40 p.m. London time. So you just need to be calculating into your time zone. And it's going to be happening on 16 degrees 40 minutes in the sign of Virgo. But by the way, it is falling on the Pisces dwatch. So definitely there is a strong Piscean influence here with this new moon, full moon. Now, what is interesting about this chart? First of all, we have got two planets on energetic degrees. One of them is Pluto, the other one is Saturn. So they are actually forming a semisextile. Now, I did make recently a post on my Facebook channel. So if you are looking out, daily posts and stuff like that, then you can go on my Facebook and then just like the page, and then you will see some updates about certain positions. But it is highlighting the Saturn and the Pluto semisextile. Now, first of all, in my opinion, semisextile is a series-related aspect, by the way, on one hand. Secondly, it is somehow connected to the second or the 12th house. The second house is something to do with the finances, and the 12th house is something to do with losses. Why I believe that is because if we start with Aries, with the first house, then the second sign would be Taurus, which is financials. And the previous 30 degree before would be a Piscean energy. So there is this Taurus Piscean energy involved somehow with the semisextiles. Now, if you think about it, that series is something to do with agriculture, something to do with food and depression and anger. Those keywords pretty much belong on one hand to Taurus, the other one is to Pisces. So this would be the idea behind a semisextile having a series impact. What I feel like in regards to this Saturn and Pluto semisextile, that obviously we started the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, the new cycle, sometimes in about 2020 January. And the planets have got their phases, right? So when they are forming, for example, a semisextile, then the energy of the conjunction, what took place a few years before, is going to be enhanced a little bit. So, for example, this Saturn-Pluto semisextile this time around would talk to you about a politician who is going to be struggling in some ways. Another way we can talk about that is, for example, someone important who is going to pass away in the next 1.5 years. Potentially it's a politician, or it could be talking about the breakdown of some of the monarchies. Pluto, Saturn definitely wants to do that. As I mentioned, the current cycle of Pluto and Saturn started on the 12th of January 2020. And that is when the recent pandemic started. And of course, it brought loads of changes in terms of health, economics, finances, and also political matters too. So Pluto and Saturn have got a 32 to 35 year long cycles together. For example, in 1518, when pretty much a Saturn-Pluto cycle started, there were protests were going on. Pest infestation were pretty regular. So therefore, these type of things are somehow in the air. It could talk about that the political world is moving forward in the next 18 months. New leaders might be emerging. Maybe there is going to be some changes of borders as well, such as, Scotland or Catalonia, who wants to become independent somehow. There could be new rules and regulations that are established. Obviously, Saturn and Pluto will be changing sign as well, right? So they are pretty much starting a new era for us, and they're going to be carry on having this semisextile. So something huge is going to be going down. So we have got this shift going on between the water and the air elements, and moving into an air from a Pluto side and the Saturn moving into water. What could pretty much talk to us about is that there's going to be a spotlight on anxiety, mental health, obsessions, questions of humanitarian matters, maybe in regards to animal cruelty, or, some of the economics are predicting to start a recession. I do believe that we will see signs of that. However, I think the recession is sometimes 25, 26, which I have been talking about for a few years now. It could bring in some changes in regards to immigration as well. Maybe they are reforming the existing systems, for example, or these topics might become a regular headline. Remember that Saturn changing sign is going to be about mastering something, finding the right time to make some improvements in our life. We need to start making changes, letting go of something in order to be able to move forward. So that's one thing which is extremely interesting here. The other one is that we have got a stellium in the sign of Aries, which is definitely interesting, right? Because what Saturn wants from us is to kind of do a little bit of a closure, but Aries is extremely eager to start something new. And Aries often burns out too quickly. So we start something and then we burn out pretty much. So that is interesting. Another thing is that Mars is still out of bound. It's been out of bound for a while, but it's going to carry on being out of bound till May. But we're going to speak about that because obviously the dispositor of this full moon is Mercury. And Mercury is also the dispositor of Mars as well at this time around. So what is a full moon, a Virgo full moon about to start with? Full moons are a culmination point of something. They are highlighting certain area of our life. You can see that this is happening in the sixth sign of the world chart. So it does highlight the medical fields overall. So that Saturn Pluto could talk about some major medical breakthroughs, which might be quite shocking as well to a certain extent, actually. The other thing Virgo pretty much talks to you about is that it's time to fix something which are broken, or often actually it tells you that you are trying to fix something which is actually not broken. So which end are you falling onto? Also, Virgo can be pretty much about, kind of creating an order in chaos, trying to improve something, finding a better system for something. How interesting that Saturn and Pluto pretty much talks about the systems, right? So the system, the failure of the system, something which is actually breaking down. So this full moon is going to show us that something needs to be fixed overall. Another thing Virgo is in charge of is something to do with the body purification, the cleansing, So how important it is, for example, to regularly go on a water diet, for example, or to start some type of new routines. We just need a time schedule for it. We need to make sure that we put effort into something so that it can work. Often Virgo, Virgo is the Monica Geller type of personality in the series of Friends, if someone watched it, but she had OCD. She was extremely controlling. She could not let go of having fun. Everything had to be scheduled and in a timely manner. She was also very interested in cooking as well and so forth, but pretty much she was a cleaning freak. Now, all these type of energies are Virgo related. Everything needs to be perfect. Everything needs to be in working order. But it's Pisces what? So it tells you that by controlling things, it's not always going to work out. Sometimes you're going to have to listen to your intuition as well. You're going to have to go with the flow. Maybe you're going to have to listen to your body also. So medical fields are somehow emphasized here, just like with the previous full moon, by the way, when the god of medicine was in conjunction to that full moon very tightly. And it was a square to Uranus as well. So one of the things I mentioned there, that there could be a little bit of a crisis situation in the medical field. And you know what? I heard that they actually healed someone with HIV around that full moon, which was definitely an element of a breakthrough, right? But also we had the devastation going on, kind of like a little bit of a medical crisis situation in Turkey, where obviously there was this devastating earthquake and people could not. Hospitals could not cope with it. So plenty of the nurses and doctors had to kind of go down there, sleeping in tents and actually healing those people, helping them to recover. So somehow we are maybe expecting a little bit more of this medical crisis situation, Virgo is an earth element. So somehow earth are all about assimilating and accepting something. It brings up the self-worth. Taurus is about building the self-worth. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, which is the night expression of the Mercury here. Mercury combines things, looks for connection when it is Gemini ruled, but at the night expression, Mercury is actually looking for inner connections. So it's making some type of discoveries within the self. So with Virgo, one of the big keyword is to turn inwards, especially on Pisces dwat. It's about observing something in your life, approaching that from a spiritual angle, not over analyzing things. Virgo, by the way, does talk about discrimination as well. So this could bring up discrimination topics on the headlines. Often it's just want to be too precise, want to be too useful, too productive. Virgo can represent the working rights as well, how many hours we work. This can be a huge topic in the next 18 months. 18 months, because remember, this is highlighting the Saturn and the Pluto changes, what is coming up, right? Maybe it's the realization that people should not be working more than 4 days. I think there is some initiation going on in another European country about this actually. I think Sweden or Finland started it a few years ago. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they introduced it. Now another country is actually talking about that. The archetypical side of Virgo is being a slave or an artisan or basically the scientists. Virgo often feels like a half-educated person, so they need to learn to organize their knowledge. The scientists that utilize their knowledge, the scientists that see the spiritual side of the material world as well. So Virgo at one point needs to arrive, needs to get there. What Virgo learned from Leo, because obviously it is followed by Leo, we were meant to learn to shine. We were meant to come to terms with who we are. And then in the sign of Virgo, we are again here to collect something, to put them into safety. It's basically Virgo represents the safety of the ego, the maintenance, right? Virgo represents maintenance, the maintenance of the ego, the maintenance of the shining. Also Virgo wants to have money too, because it's an earth sign. So, but it needs to learn to be open to the world. Leo was wasting the material background a little bit. Now, Virgo is noticing that they should not do that anymore. They are looking for their own place in the world, at home or in their relationship, Leo wants to be served. Now Virgo wants to learn to serve others. I have to find my place among others. And that is, with a Piscean dwarf, it's about being charitable or just looking for opportunities to connect and to make a bond with others. Yeah, Virgo does represent sickness as well. Often it comes because of worrying about the future or what's going to happen, with my health, for example, what's going to happen at work. Virgo is really trying hard to secure their present, as they are extremely afraid of the future. Virgo, which is connected to virgins, meant two things in ancient times. One hand, it was talking about someone who is sexually inexperienced, or an independent woman who does things on their own terms. Virgo is a dual sign, right? So it represents both meanings at the same time, but it has got two different polarities. Sometimes extremely confident, sometimes they show loads of self-doubt. Mutable sign. So it talks about the change of the season, which is coming soon. So obviously the world, the nature is adapting to the changes. They start, losing the leaves or all this type of stuff. Loads to mention about Virgo. I mean, I did make a webinar about Virgo, and I think this was the second biggest one, because there's just loads to mention about it. But Virgo is also interested in lands and gardening and grains and herbs. It often wants to just live in a little village, for example. Definitely, Virgo can represent like a research lab. So there is going to be some major discovery coming in the medical science, as I feel like it. The spiritual dynamics of Virgo is that they want to understand how the world works. They analyze the world as well as the people around them. They want to control the outcome of things. They tend to take things apart into small bits and bobs, you know, because they want to see how things function. They want to understand the dynamics of a male and the female person. That's a huge meaning to Virgo, by the way. They have no goals at work. They serve others around themselves, as they don't want to take risks. They don't want to be in the center of attention. They are not really good at taking things lightly. They are actually serious about what they do. And they have guilty consciousness if they don't do something right at the first place. So the fact that Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury represents gender issues, then it can also highlight that, the political involvements with Saturn and Pluto. And to be frank, the other wild idea I had, that eventually we're going to have a president who is, for example, openly gay or even transsexual or whatever. We're going to see that in the next 20 years, surely. Maybe not necessarily in the next 18 months, but we might see that, because Pluto is going to move into the sign of Aquarius. So the power is at the hand of the, unique people, if you like it. Maybe I'm saying something extremely stupid, but that could be one of the manifestation. Okay, so looking at the aspects of this full moon, I mean, we do have got a square to Mars, which is still out of bounds. So this energy can make things a little bit scattered. You know, what does Mars want? Mars initiate things. Let me just mention something here. I think something very important because one thing which I notice in my practice is that people are pretty much getting confused about how to interpret squares, and we are very afraid of it. And yesterday I made a kind of like a webinar about, you know, what squares are and how to use them and how to master them because they are actually, in my opinion, you know, challenging, but it really is motivating us. So squares are about a call to act on something. So when there is for example, a moon square to Mars, you know, we are here to fight for our emotional rights. Or we are here to defend, there is a call to action to defend, to stand up for our people, for our family, for our place of living, and so forth. So, and if you do that, if you practice that, then you know what? It unbelievably becomes an easy aspect to deal with, believe it or not. But actually, it could work extremely well. You know, because it's a full moon. Full moon are always great to release or to make adjustments. So you are here to make some type of adjustments in the area of service, your own health, or how you pay attention to details. There is an element of self-care involved as well because it's squaring Mars, right? And Mars is telling you that it's all about me, me. I am the center of the universe, so you should be taking care of yourself as well. Remembering, though, because Virgo is pretty much about perfection, that we cannot become perfect at all times. Someone is always going to criticize us or judge us, you know, and you're never going to be on the highest pedestal in front of others. Now, this full moon has got the Mars square, but it has got actually kind of six aspects going on. But with that Mars, which is out of bound, it can make things a little bit more scattered. We can start believing that I'm not good enough, or this is something which I don't want to do anymore, or it's not working for me anymore, you know, and we want to move on because Mars wants to start something else. But then with the square, there is a call to action to start something new, maybe in the medical fields, right? But then we start vacillating about it. What is the best course of action to take? And then easily we get frustrated. So the Pisces, what there pretty much tell you to listen to your intuition. Yes, with Mars, often there is a little bit of an argument going on, inner arguments. Remember, Virgo is more about the inner thoughts. However, Mars is in the sign of Gemini, which wants to talk out loud. So we should have this, we can expect some disputes or, you know, or some type of argument. And also we have got an upcoming Mars and Neptune square, so it's going to confuse things up a little bit on the 14th of March, which is obviously the other end of the Pisces new moon. It's not necessarily easy this time around because Mercury has just gone into the sign of Pisces as well, which is the dispositor of this full moon. That is also screaming to you to pay attention to your intuition a little bit. You are a psychic sponge and your mental capacity is a little bit weakened now because you might be driven by your emotions. Mercury just had its conjunction to Saturn on 29 degree. So the brain can feel a little bit restricted. You know, that Saturn wants Mercury to be more organized, to be more rational, but the mind might be a little bit depressed. Mercury is unfortunately still being impacted by Saturn. You know, Saturn wants to move into the sign of Pisces to create some orders there, but there are so many confusion going on with all the Piscean energy right now that Saturn is going to get confused as well, straight away. And Mercury is also in detrimental position, you know, so Mercury has got trouble of focusing, and it's very possible that you are struggling to focus as well. Maybe because you pay too much attention to the details, you become a maximalist, right? And you should remember Pisces is about letting go of control. Sometimes you just need to learn to go with the flow. There is no such things like perfection. However, we can do some reflection on ourselves. We can forgive ourselves that we are not able to focus on something. You know, another aspect, what we have with this full moon is a very tight trine with Uranus. So, you know, Uranus is trying to help you. Uranus is trying to get you out of your comfort zone. It's trying to pump your confidence level up a little bit. But if we say that the full moon is about service, then Uranus wants you to do that in a unique way. You don't need to fit any type of boxes. You don't need to exceed anyone's expectations. It wants you to think outside of the box. When it comes to ways of dealing with healthcare, for example, or Uranus wants to use alternative medicine rather than a conventional medicine. It wants Uranus always try to modernize something, right? So it wants you to update your routines a little bit, right? To get out of your routines for a second, basically, for a change. You know, the Uranus was highly emphasized in the latest full moon as well, which happened in Leo around, 16 degree. And Uranus is still on 15 degree of Taurus. It's a semi-square to the world axis. So unfortunately, this could bring another earthquake or some devastation at certain places, you know, or it could talk about the food prices, and there's going to be an explanation why they are pushing up the food prices again. But Uranus also catalyzes significant change, and it wants us to release some old patterns and structures which are not working anymore. So we have got a T square going on with Mars at right angles to the luminaries. So Mars wants to fire up a little bit the enthusiasm. It wants to make those adjustments. It kind of gives the courage, right? With Mars in Gemini, often, we become brave to study something new. We become brave to share information with others. Then we have got a Sesky square happening from Pluto as well, which is 135-degree aspects. Now, a Sesky square is also some type of adjustments. Pluto is about power, wealth, and transformation. So it does want us to transform our, lifestyle, medical choices, what we have, our routines, and so forth. With just Pluto, sometimes we need to dig deep. What is the connection to power and wealth and transformation overall? Then the other aspect, what we've got here is that Moon and Venus has got also an in conjunction going on, which is a 150-degree aspect. Now, what's the dilemma between Moon and Venus? It's often about wanting to be a mom or wanting to just to be a girlfriend. It's kind of like the two faces of Eve, looking into the mirror, and I cannot decide, do I want to become a mom? But then I have to be losing my perfect body, for example, in the sign of Virgo. Or I'm not going to be able to work, or I'm going to be overwhelmed with all the routines, what I've got. But obviously, it's the self-care as well. And it's about looking after your skin, looking after your eating habits and so forth. Then we have got a moon and Pallas Athene sextile too. Now, Pallas Athene is a peacemaker. It has got so much wisdom. I mean, she is a warrior princess, right? So she fights when it needs to, but she does that with intelligence. She's trying to solve the problems before actually it goes out to fight. Because what's the point in killing, right? So it's about coming up with some intellectually, some type of smart ideas of how to create the balance. Some people believe Pallas Athene rules Libra. So Libra is about balance if we go with that flow. So it's about learning to do your routines the way you want them to, but allowing yourself to switch off as well. Now, Pallas Athene is in the sign of Cancer. So that is talking to you about seeing some patterns, especially your emotional reactions, as well as seeing patterns in your country, for example, or seeing patterns in your own family, that this is something it has been repeated continuously. Also, Pallas Athene is the planet of strategy. So it's just about coming up with a plan, but it's in a water sign. So, you need to feed your emotions as well. It's not just about helping everyone to shine, but also making sure that I am shining with them. And then, the fact that Venus has got that quincunx to Moon, but it has got a conjunction to Chiron as well. So it does talk about some type of emotional triggers here, which is basically sending you on the journey of an inner healing overall. It's about giving or receiving healing. But it's the realization that, you know what, most likely we need to do both, just because we are on a Piscean dwells. Now, another two asteroids I would like to actually introduce for you, because this full moon is going to be in conjunction to Lilith, and the other one is Prometheus. Now, Lilith is not the Black Moon Lilith, okay? It's an asteroid. The Black Moon Lilith is a mathematical calculation, basically the furthest point from the moons, from the ecliptic, and so forth, okay? So it's going to be the asteroid of Lilith, an asteroid. If you want to check where your asteroid Lilith is in the chart, then its astrological number is 1181. In order for you to understand, what this asteroid talks about, you might want to go and then check out the history of, the myth around Lilith. But we met Lilith in the Garden of Eden. And she was she had rages against Adam's suggestion. She didn't want to accept her role as a subordinate to him or to help the Aiden. So Lilith became unafraid and, unrepentant. She was not interested completely to make these compromises, right? So she chose to leave the Eden, sorry, and just to go on her own road. Now, obviously, on one hand, this is going to talk about rage and being unwilling to do something, to make compromises, but also it talks about the desires, what we have. And if we leave certain things behind, then it might become something better instead. I also believe that Lilith asteroid is a little bit connected to Aquarius energy. So it can talk about the activists, for example, or it can talk about, you know, kind of like that mental breakthrough somehow, you know, to be vocal about something. You know, it's often Lilith is not wanting to be a part of a machine. Now, it's interesting that Lilith having this conjunction to the full moon is part of a machine, because Virgo is kind of like ruling the conveyor belt type of things. So it pushes the moon to get out of its comfort zone a little bit. And the other asteroid, what we have right next to the full moon is Prometheus. Now, if you think about Prometheus, then what did he do? He stole the fire to the humankind because he realized that he wanted to give something to them, right? They needed it, basically. By the way, Prometheus' astrological number is 1809. So it was a bold energy. He did things in the face of injustice or justice. It's about right and wrong. You know, he took a risk so that we can move forward. So if you have got a prominent Prometheus in your chart, it shows, you know, where you might not be able to accept authorities, you know, what area of life you might have got some type of impulsive decision makings, you know, going against what the rest says. So interesting, we've got Uranus involved here. We've got these two rebellion energy involved with these, you know, full moon. So we can go on a ride pretty much. So guys, this is my analysis of the upcoming full moon in Virgo. I hope you have enjoyed it. And then if you did, subscribe and sign up to the channel. And I will be back with another video shortly. Take care. Bye-bye.